Do you remember the first time that a song made you cry? Try to remember the emotions that the song made you feel. Recall the subject matter of the song. Recall the tears streaming down your face, whether they were happy or sad, and try to understand why that song impacted you in the way it did. It's pretty incredible that art can move us in the way it does, and there's no better feeling than connecting with a song no matter what the reason. Maybe it's a happy song and it makes you feel happy. Maybe it's a sad song and listening to it is a cathartic experience for you. I remember the first time I ever cried to a song. I was 16, it was November of 2012, and the song was called Never Saw It Coming by a band called Tiger's Jaw. There's just something about that song, and if you've heard it, you probably know what I'm talking about. Maybe it's the despair in Adam's voice, maybe it's the way the guitar is strummed, or the lyrical content of the track, but nonetheless, it made me cry. When I entered high school in 2011, I began discovering bands like Basement, Title Fight, Balance and Composure, Joyce Manor, and bands like that. You know the vibe I'm talking about. There was something so different about these groups, something so raw, passionate, authentic, and honest. Something that I'd been unknowingly looking for and had finally found. This clip of Basement playing a show in 2012 showcases the raw passion displayed in this brand of music. It felt so good discovering these bands and the music that they had to offer. If you listen to this type of music, try to remember the first time that you ever listened through Shed by Title Fight, I Wish I Could Stay Here by Basement, or Separation by Balance and Composure. Nothing compares to hearing these bands for the first time, and there's an undeniable magic that comes along with it. I truly never thought I'd have that feeling again like I did when I discovered Title Fight or Basement until I listened to a band called Movements. Movements was the first band in the scene, if you will, that made me feel something in years, which is incredibly ironic since their debut album is called Feel Something. At 22 years old, Movements has somehow captured something that made me feel like I did when I was 16, and that's something that I've still been processing and trying to understand up to this very day, and actually was what prompted me to make this video. To figure out what makes Movements so special, to me and to many others, because it seems like I'm not the only one that feels this strongly about this band. Today we're going to find out together what makes Movements so special and try to understand how they've already developed such a die-hard fan base after being a band for really not that long. I find their success remarkable and inspiring, and I have the deepest respect for the individuals in this band as they all seem like incredibly kind, down-to-earth people. The first song I ever heard by Movements was Full Circle, the opener to Feel Something, which brilliantly introduces us to the unique style of emo that Movements plays and acts as the perfect track to set the tone for the album. Somewhat desperate and somewhat hopeful. Everything about Movements is the epitome of real to me. I recall hearing the opening line to the record, "I'm tearing apart at the seams," and it just struck a chord with me. Patrick Miranda's lyrics are incredibly personal, intensely honest, and talk about fairly common subjects in the most captivating, intriguing way. Full Circle is a flawless articulation of what it feels like to be depressed, a feeling that's nearly impossible to explain or express. But Pat expresses this abstract concept in such a way that feels so genuine without sounding the least bit corny or pretentious, something that very few bands in their lane can achieve. It comes in waves and I'm pulled below. It's not subjective, it's clinical. Drown myself in the undertow of all my imbalanced chemicals, and the cycle comes full circle. The screamed chorus gives us our first taste of Miranda's more aggressive vocals that are placed sparingly throughout the album at just the right times. The fact that this chorus is so spot on in terms of describing how depression feels, accompanied by passionate screams, just adds another layer of emotion for the listener to experience, digest, and find solace within. The screams are filled with desperation and almost gives us a sense that he's experiencing these emotions as he's singing it, and has a perfect understanding of what you're going through as an individual who's depressed or feeling down. I think this creates a feeling of trust, relatability, and a true connection between the band and the listener. Something that I believe is what helped get this band off the ground so fast and what has so quickly developed their die-hard lifetime fan base. Because it's one thing to hear a sad song by a band about a breakup, for example, and go, oh yeah, I can relate to that. I've been through a breakup before. But it's an entirely different type of connection when you sense that a band can empathize sympathize with your deep sense of hopelessness, chemical imbalances, and have experienced it themselves to one extent or another. Movements does a phenomenal job at contrasting the darker tones of their music with some hopeful sentiments, because even though Patrick may be tearing apart at the seams at the beginning of Full Circle, towards the end of the song when the spoken word portion begins, he exclaims, "I know eventually I'm gonna come around, and maybe it won't be easy, but it will be worth it, and the results will be profound." Lines like this give us a feeling that everything is going to be okay, that things will get better, even though that may not be what we want to hear when we're going through it. I think this sends a wonderful positive message to the audience of likely teens and young adults that are experiencing some type of depression or mental health issues. One thing that really sets Movements apart from other groups in their genre is their aforementioned use of spoken word throughout some tracks on the record. This is something that could easily ruin a song, make it feel gimmicky or contrived, but Movements is able to avoid this entirely by using this style very conservatively throughout the record. In the times that it is used, it's always accompanied by well-crafted lyrics and spot-on delivery from Pat. One of the most heavy-hitting moments on this LP is in the song Deadly Dull in verse 2. This is the story of a man that I know. He knows my face, but he doesn't know me, pretends he does every time we meet, and puts his questions on repeat. These are delivered in a spoken word-esque fashion, producing one of the saddest yet most real moments on this record. This song talks about Alzheimer's disease, telling the story of how a man and his wife both died of this same disease. It accurately portrays what it's like to have someone you love slowly but surely lose everything that made them who they are, as the disease steadily erodes your memory until you get to the point where each day you rise not remembering anything, literally anything. The line, "What's it like to be erased every time you fall asleep, waking up as a clean slate without a sense of reality," is straightforward but oh so real, and carries more weight the more time you spend pondering it. You begin imagining what that person is going through and how it's impacting those around them. The line is simple and brilliant, much like many of Miranda's lyrics. Very real personal lyrics that are to the point but so creative and inventive the way they talk about common subjects. Like on Colorblind, for instance, the song builds up to a powerful bridge that goes, "And this complacency just seems to get the best of me as I wander aimlessly back to everything I left behind. A new face, a different story, the same mess of me, and I never learn my lesson because I'm blind." A refreshing take on getting snared in the trap of falling in and out of love. It's a vicious cycle, and he's unable to see that that's what he's doing as he wanders aimlessly back to everything that he left behind. If I had to pick a Movement song that best sums up and demonstrates everything that we've discussed thus far, it would have to be their smash hit, magnum opus, Daylily, track 4, I Feel Something. Patrick wrote this song for his ex-girlfriend who was battling some mental health related issues and made this song just for her. It opens with soft strummed guitars followed by Miranda's soft, delicate voice singing "Outside for the first time in a long time," which I'm not sure if this is supposed to be taken literally as in when you're depressed you don't go outside, or maybe it's trying to convey that she's overcoming her depression and is able to now go outside of that metaphorical depression bubble that she's in. Nonetheless, it's another great example of an intriguing way to discuss a common subject that feels fresh and interesting. In the first verse and pre-chorus of the song, you can hear how much he cares about the person he's singing to. The way the lines are delivered and the cadence of his voice creates such a real feeling that you almost feel like you can reach out and physically touch it. The soft vocals perfectly contrast the screaming in the chorus where Patrick yells out the iconic line, "I think it's time you had a pink cloud summer." In an interview, he stated that when his girlfriend had a good day, they referred to it as a pink cloud day. So when he wishes that she has a pink cloud summer, he's saying that he hopes she has a fantastic, depression-free summer in the most unique way possible. This song also does a great job at balancing the desperate and hopeful tone that this album has with lines like, "It's been a while since you felt right," later followed by, "The warm nights are coming soon and you'll be just fine." I believe Movements is sending an important message to their fans because a lot of their lyrics are of course emotional and sad, but are often backed up with a brighter line about wishing to get better or longing for better times. Like in their song Suffer Through, where the line goes, "You want to move mountains? Go ahead. I think I'll suffocate instead," which is followed up later in the song with, "You want to move mountains? Well, I do too." It shows struggle, but it doesn't show giving up. The pain you feel is real, and it's valid, but it's not forever. Nothing is. Movements has been able to develop themselves into such an important special act by creating a real, authentic sound by being so in touch and honest with themselves, and are generous enough to share that with all of us. The way Pat utilizes the range of his voice puts them entirely in their own lane, with some songs containing soft sung vocals, harsh screams, and the occasional spoken word passage, all at just the right times and the right amount, blended together seamlessly to create something truly original and something that I believe will stand the test of time for me and for others. I believe the Movements will be a legacy band, because in just a few years they've been able to develop a gargantuan die-hard fan base that they deeply respect and talk at eye level to. even if they stopped right now and never made any more music, I still believe they would leave a significant legacy behind them. When I listen to this band, I feel like we have a mutual understanding. Like we both get what the other one is going through and can acknowledge that it sucks, but can also acknowledge that it won't be that way forever, even if it feels like that in the moment. I feel like Movements understands their fans so well, and I feel like to some extent we understand them. A very cool fan-to-band relationship that you don't see all that often and is an extremely special thing that I hope lasts for years to come. If anyone from Movements happens to be watching this, I can't wait to see what you guys do next. Hope everyone has a great day. Thank you.